Hi, I'm Carolyn Blunt, Managing Director of Real Results Training Consultancy. So we work with lots of organisations to help them develop their frontline advisors and team leaders in contact centres throughout the world, particularly around soft skills. So in this short video, I'm just going to give you some quick tips that you can share with your frontline staff, particularly in relation to two things. Number one, assertiveness, and number two, influencing. So first of all, when it comes to being assertive on the telephone, some personalities find this easier to do than others. And in fact, some personalities can be too assertive and it can border into aggression if we're not careful. Whereas the other type of personality can find conversations that are difficult very draining. They can find it difficult to bounce back from them. They may find that they are replaying those conversations over and over and that demotivates them. It actually hurts them. They take it on board quite personally. And over time, usually advisors either learn how to kind of box off those difficult conversations and move forward, or they end up leaving the contact centre industry because they just can't take it anymore. So this video really is to help you, to help them be able to be a little bit more resilient. So once people understand that actually maybe it's partly to do with my personality and I'm not alone in needing to think about how I can be more resilient and more assertive, then that usually helps them straight away. Once we get past that, we need to think about some techniques. So there are a number of different things that they can think about doing, but the first of all is to stop the broken record of replaying the negative conversation over and over. So pressing a reset button kind of mentally is really important, and this is where you need to think about what freedom you give them after a difficult call, to just have a few minutes to take stock and, stretch their legs, go for a walk around the building outside, get a drink, just breathe and calm down and recover from the situation. So, you don't want people taking advantage of that, but for a few minutes that can be really helpful, because otherwise what can happen is a spiral of negativity where we take that negativity into the next call and the next call, and it becomes a really bad day. And that's not good for anyone. So we need to think about the reset button. Then we need to think about some of the language that we're using on calls. So not making the situation worse, never getting defensive or letting our heckles rise. And that's where those that can get too assertive sometimes kind of enjoy at a very kind of subconscious level even the power that sometimes they can have on the telephone, and almost kind of enjoy slapping down those rude customers, and it ends up escalating. So let's just stick with thinking about techniques then for language that they can all use, no matter what their personality, to make sure that they are not getting sucked into either any battles of wills with customers or any arguments whatsoever. So it's certainly about taking the heat out of the situation, acknowledging the emotion if the customer is demonstrating emotion, but not joining in with that emotion. So there's a very clear difference between sympathy and empathy. So when we show sympathy, we are joining in with the customer, and when we show empathy, we are appreciating from their perspective what that could be like. So using phrases like, I understand and I appreciate are well-known empathetic statements, whereas a sympathetic statement would be agreeing with the customer and saying, oh, I know, that's terrible, I can't believe that's happened to you. Or kind of not taking any ownership makes it worse as well. So things like, I'm really sorry, but it wasn't me you spoke to. That's just going to make the situation worse. So assertiveness phrases usually follow a three-part sentence structure. So things like I hear, I understand and I appreciate are the first part of the sentence. So they acknowledge what the customer has said, because to calm an angry customer, the first thing we need to do is to reassure them that we hear what they're saying. So we do that. Then we say I feel, and we go in with our perspective of the situation. So perhaps we're having an argument over the amount of compensation, or kind of the reasonableness of the solution that's being offered. So saying I feel that this is a fair amount of money or whatever it is, then it's less emotive and easy to argue back to than the phrase "I think," because I can try and change your mind, I can try and debate with you about what you think, but it's very hard for me to get rattled or hooked or argue back with you about what you feel, because only you know what you feel. So that's quite a clever tip that you might want to share with them. And then the third part of the three-part sentence is to talk about the solution. So focus on that. So what happens is, and to use words that take into account social norming. So things like usually what happens is, or normally what happens is, or most people find that, this is very reasonable, that tends to work well. So that's the three-part sentence on assertiveness. I hope that is helpful for you. I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes on influencing, if you find that helpful. When it comes to influencing, the single biggest fast thing that your advisors need to be doing is to be building rapport, because people like people who are similar to them. So building rapport means finding common ground, showing a genuine interest in the other person, using their name appropriately and correctly, and building that human connection and relationship with them. When they do that, it's easier to use the other influencing techniques, which are a little bit kind of manipulative if they're used wrongly. You could use them for negativity if you were a really dodgy salesperson, but I'm going to trust you're not going to do that with this. So once we've got the liking part done, we can use that social proof I talked about, social norming in assertiveness. We can also use that in influencing. So this is where now you're all looking at TripAdvisor, you're all reading Amazon reviews, you believe that more than what a company says about its products or services. So we bring that into our conversations with customers by using those words I mentioned earlier. So usually, normally, most people like. And if we can give them either links, reviews, other things to look at, forums, then that again is very reassuring for customers. So it's a good one for overcoming objections, and it's another good one for reassuring customers on the quality of products and services, because we don't, as a human race, like to be alone. It's considered unsafe and dangerous generally to break away from the masses, so we want to show them that this is what everybody else does and it's therefore safe and good and great. So that's really the social proof one. Think about how you can bring that in with the language and links and referrals. So you want to be asking your existing customers for reviews and referrals as much as possible as well. That will be helpful. Other things that you can use in terms of the influencing factors are things like reciprocation. So that's another strategy, which is if you do this, I'll do that. So anything that gives reward points or loyalty points and that kind of stuff. So in the case of calming a difficult customer, compensation, even just a little compensation, can go a long way. So not to be afraid of using that. And then the final principle is the scarcity one. That I use quite a lot in influencing skills training. So this is where we might say, you know, we can, if we do this today, then that will resolve it for you. So we're going to put time frames on things. It's quite good for getting the customer to take some action if you need them to hold up their end of the bargain in order to do it. So it's quite persuasive for missed appointments. If you can guarantee that the engineer is now actually going to be there on the day that you're agreeing, then that can be quite powerful. So I hope these quick tips are useful. There's only so much I can cover in 10 minutes, but I'm also going to put a download resource guide on the website. So I hope you find that useful as well. And if you are interested in talking to me further, then please do connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thanks very much.